Rain in New York never falls gently. It slams against the windows of the tiny walk-up studio, streaking the glass like someone is dragging nails through the night. Leah Thorne stands in the doorway of her third-floor walk-up, rainwater dripping from her hair, soaking the threadbare hoodie clinging to her shoulders. The hallway smells like damp plaster and old cigarette smoke. Down on the street, a black Bentley pulls up to the curb, all polished chrome and dark windows. A monster dropped into the wrong part of town. She watches, frozen, as the back door opens. A man steps out under a black umbrella. His suit is charcoal, perfectly cut, the kind of fabric that has never seen rain until tonight. The light from the street lamp glances off his sharp cheekbones and the angle of his jaw. Even from here, Leah can feel the cold distance rolling off him. Ethan Walker. She has seen his face on business magazines lining the bodega shelves, on the muted television in the hospital waiting room. CEO of Walker Group, billionaire, untouchable. He should not know that a nobody like her exists. Yet he is here, at her building, in her hallway, walking up the cracked concrete stairs like the grime cannot touch him. Her phone buzzes in the pocket of her jeans. She does not need to look at the screen. She knows what it says. Final notice. Surgery must be paid in full by tomorrow. Her younger brother is lying in a hospital bed across town, lungs drowning, body failing. Without that surgery, there is no later. Her fingers tighten around the folded hospital bill already damp in her hand. Footsteps echo closer. The old stairwell lights flicker. Ethan appears at the landing, umbrella collapsing with a violent shake that sends beads of rain onto the peeling walls. He stops in front of her door. In front of her. Up close, his eyes are even colder, a storm behind pale gray. He does not look surprised to see her in the doorway, dripping onto the warped floorboards. He looks like he expected this image down to the last raindrop. Leah Thorne, he says. Her name in his mouth sounds strange. Too sharp, too real. She swallows. Mr. Walker. His gaze drops to the crumpled hospital bill in her hand. A muscle jumps in his jaw, not from sympathy, from calculation. I hear you have a problem, he says. And I have a solution. The words slice through the dim hallway, cleaner than the flickering light. Leah's shoulders lock. My brother needs surgery, she says, voice hoarse. The hospital will not operate until I pay. I know you have connections there, but I do not expect dash. He cuts her off with a small, humorless curve of his lips. I did not come here for your expectations. He reaches into the inner pocket of his coat and pulls out a folded check. The paper looks almost obscene in this building, too white, too crisp. He opens it and holds it between two fingers. Even at a distance, Leah sees the numbers. More money than she has ever seen in her life. Enough to cover the surgery, the medicine, months of rent. Her knees weaken. I will pay every cent of your brother's medical bills, Ethan says, tone flat, like he is talking about a minor business expense. The surgery, the recovery, anything he needs. Hope rushes up so fast it makes her dizzy. Then it crashes, because she knows there is no such thing as free salvation. Her fingers dig into the paper bill so hard it tears. What do you want in return? She asks. His eyes meet hers, unblinking. For the first time, there is something like heat there, but it is not kindness. It is the heat of a man reaching for something he has already decided belongs to him. You will come with me, Ethan says quietly. You will live in my house. You will follow my rules. You will be mine. Her breath stumbles. Like a girlfriend? The word tastes childish the moment it leaves her mouth. He laughs, a low, humorless sound that does not touch his eyes. No, he says. Not a girlfriend. He takes a step forward, bringing the scent of rain and expensive cologne with him, boxing her in the doorway. You will be Claire. The name hits Leah like a physical blow. She flinches before she can stop herself. She has seen Claire Hart's face too, in glossy pages, in social media photos of charity galas and Hamptons parties, always on Ethan's arm, always glowing. And she knows, because gossip never dies in this city, that Claire left Ethan 5 years ago, with no warning, and never looked back. Leah's voice feels like it belongs to someone else when she forces out. I am not Claire. He studies her damp hair, plastered in dark waves around her face, her wide brown eyes. The faint dimple that appears at the corner of her mouth, when she is not holding herself this tight. You look like her, he says, each word clipped. Enough that when the lights are low and you wear what she wore, it will be convincing. There is something raw tucked behind the frost in his voice. Loss, anger, obsession. Leah shakes her head, water scattering from the ends of her hair. I am Leah, she whispers. I cannot be someone else. Ethan's gaze hardens. He holds out the check, then lets it flutter from his fingers. It slaps wetly against her cheek before drifting to the floor. Ink darkens as raindrops soak into the paper. In my world, your name does not matter. He says. You want your brother to live. I want my life back. It is simple. She stares down at the check lying in the puddle at her feet. All those zeros bleed at the edges. She sees her brother's face in her mind. Adam's smile, too big for his thin frame. His hands clutching at his chest when the coughing fits tear through him. The way he apologized to her for being sick, like it is his fault the world is cruel. If she does nothing, he dies. If she says yes, something in her dies instead. Her throat burns. She bends slowly, fingers trembling as she picks up the check. The paper is damp, but the ink is still legible. Still enough. Behind her, in the apartment, her half-finished canvases lean against the walls. People with blurred faces and bright, impossible colors, their eyes always turned toward some unseen horizon. She has dreamed of a gallery someday, her name on a white wall, her work under real light. Those dreams crumble under the weight of a hospital bill. Leah straightens. Her shoulders shake, but she lifts her chin. Will you really pay for everything? She asks, forcing the words out. No conditions for him, no debts. For your brother, Ethan says. There will be no debt. For you, there will be a contract. He reaches into his coat again and hands her a sleek black folder. Inside is a printed agreement, lines of dense text. She schemes it, catching phrases that burn. Exclusive arrangement, full discretion, termination at Mr. Walker's request, confidentiality. Her signature line stares up at her from the last page, waiting, unbothered by the way her hand starts to shake. She looks up at him one last time. If I say yes? Leah asks. How long do you plan to keep me? His eyes flick over her face. The rain drums on the roof, steady and cruel. Until Claire comes back, he says. Or until I stop needing you. The words are a sentence without a date of release. Something inside Leah breaks with a soft, resigned sound. She presses the back of her hand to her eyes, wiping away rain and tears together. When she lowers it, her expression is different. Not stronger, just emptied out. Give me the pen, she says. A flicker passes through Ethan's gaze. Triumph. Relief. Something darker. He pulls a pen from his breast pocket and places it in her palm. His fingers brush her skin, cold and impersonal. Leah signs. Each stroke feels like she is writing on her own bones. When she is done, Ethan checks the page, snaps the folder shut, and lifts his phone. The transfer goes through now. He tells whoever answers. Full amount. Thorne, Adam. Yes, tonight. He ends the call and slips the phone away. It is done, he says. Leah sways. Adam will live. The thought is so bright it hurts. Pack a bag. Ethan adds. You have 10 minutes. You will not need much. From now on, you wear what I provide. Her gaze darts back into her apartment. The chipped mug on the counter. The blanket on the sagging couch. The canvases waiting for color. There is no time to say goodbye. She nods and steps back inside. Tosses jeans, shirts, her sketchbook into an old duffel. She hesitates at the doorway where her paintings crowd shoulder to shoulder. After a long moment, she grabs the smallest canvas, the one of a girl standing in the rain, face turned up, mouth set. She tucks it into the bag. When she comes out, Ethan is waiting in the hallway, umbrella already open. He does not take her duffel. He does not touch her. He simply turns and walks down the stairs, expecting her to follow. She does. Outside, the rain hits her face like 1,000 tiny slaps. The Bentley's door opens on its own, dark leather and warm light yawning toward her. Leah pauses with one foot on the wet curb, her fingers curl tighter around the strap of her bag. You said it yourself. She murmurs under her breath, barely audible over the storm. I am Leah, not Claire. No one hears her. She ducks into the car, and the door thunks shut behind her with a final, heavy sound. The city blurs as the car pulls away, neon and rain, and the ghost of the life she is leaving behind smeared into streaks of color against the glass. Somewhere across town, a nurse walks into Adam Thorne's room and tells him the surgery is approved. Somewhere in the dark interior of the Bentley, Ethan looks at Leah's reflection in the tinted window and sees a ghost he has been chasing for 5 years. Leah stares back at her own face and sees a stranger wearing her skin. The deal is done. The cage is already closing. Leah wakes to the sound of silence. Not the thin, restless quiet of her old apartment, where the radiator hissed and her upstairs neighbor's television leaked through the ceiling. This silence is thick, padded by money. It smells like polished wood and fresh flowers, not damp plaster and oil paint. She blinks at the ceiling. It is high and white, edged with crown molding. The bed beneath her feels like she is lying on a cloud. Her body sinks into the mattress, surrounded by cool linen and too many pillows. For a moment, disoriented, she thinks it might be a dream. Then she turns her head and sees the dress laid out on the chair by the window. White. Soft fabric spilling like water, delicate straps, a cinched waist. A style she recognizes from photos she never had the right to stare at for so long. Claire Hart's favorite. Her chest tightens. The memories rush back. The rain. The check. Ethan's eyes when he said, "You will be Claire." Leah pushes herself up, the silk nightgown sliding against her skin. At some point while she slept, someone removed her wet clothes and changed her. There is a faint floral scent clinging to her hair. She swings her legs over the side of the bed and pads to the window. It spans almost the whole wall, revealing a sweep of Manhattan, glass towers catching the morning sun. Down below, tiny figures hurry along the sidewalks, umbrellas closed now, their lives moving forward. She presses her hand to the glass. For them, it is just another Tuesday. For her, it is the first day of the rest of her sentence. The door opens with a soft click. "Leah," a woman's voice says. "Good, you are awake." Leah turns. A woman in her 30s steps in, dressed in a simple black dress and low heels, her hair in a neat bun. Her posture is crisp, efficient. "I am Maria," she says with a small nod. "Mr. Walker asked me to help you get settled." Settled, as if she has just moved into a college dorm. "Okay," Leah answers, voice rough. "Hi." Maria's gaze flicks to the dress on the chair, then back to Leah's face. If she has questions, she does not ask them. "Your measurements are similar," Maria says. "The wardrobe team already adjusted everything. You will find clothes in the closet, but Mr. Walker specifically requested the white dress for today." Of course he did. Leah looks at the dress again. In her mind's eye, she sees it on Claire instead. There is a photo burned into her brain, one of the first she ever saw of the woman Ethan loved. Claire laughing at some charity gala, head thrown back, the white dress hugging her figure. Ethan standing beside her in a black suit, eyes softer than they are now, hand resting at the small of her back. She used to study that photo obsessively, trying to understand what made someone worth that kind of gaze. Now she is supposed to wear the same dress and pretend. She swallows hard. "Where is Mr. Walker?" "In his study," Maria says. "He has a video call. He asked me to remind you of the house rules." Leah's stomach twists. Contract. Cage. "What kind of rules?" she asks. Maria does not flinch. She has done this before, Leah realizes. Not with Claire. With this house, this job. With other people who orbit men like Ethan. "Breakfast is served at 8. Maria says. "Lunch at 1, dinner at 7. You are free to use the gym, the pool, the library, and the patio. The third floor is Mr. Walker's private office wing. The staff will handle cleaning and laundry." She pauses, hesitating for the first time. "There are also personal requests." She adds more quietly. "Mr. Walker prefers white clothing in the evenings. No strong perfume. Mint tea in the sitting room at 9 o'clock. The car will be available whenever you wish to visit your brother at the hospital, but Mr. Walker expects you home before nightfall if he is in town." Leah clings to that detail. She can still see Adam. She is not cut off completely. "How is my brother?" she blurts. Maria's expression softens. "The hospital called this morning. The payment cleared last night. They scheduled his surgery for tomorrow. They asked if you could come sign some forms." Air rushes out of Leah's lungs. For a moment, the room tilts. Tomorrow. He will have a chance tomorrow. Tears sting her eyes without her permission. She turns her face away, pretending to fuss with the curtain. "Thank you," she murmurs. "I will go as soon as I can." Maria nods and moves toward the closet, opening it to reveal a row of white, cream, and pastel dresses. A handful of darker pieces hang at the far end, like an afterthought. "Shower is through that door," Maria says, pointing. "I will bring your tea." "Mint." "Of course." After she leaves, Leah stands in the middle of the room for a long time, listening to the faint hum of the city beyond the glass. Then she goes to the bathroom. The marble is too bright, the shower too big. There are expensive bottles of shampoo and conditioner lined up on the shelf, all unfamiliar brands. She turns the water on hot and steps under the spray, letting it pound against her skull. She does not cry. There is no time for that. She washes away the rain, the cheap detergent scent of her old sheets, the phantom feel of Ethan's cold fingers brushing her cheek, when he handed her the pen. When she steps back into the bedroom, wrapped in a plush towel, the white dress waits for her like a ghost. She slips it on. It fits perfectly, hugging her waist, skimming her knees. When she catches her reflection in the full-length mirror by the closet, her heart misfires. For one dizzying second, she almost does not recognize herself. The girl in the mirror has soft waves of hair falling around her face, as framed by naturally long lashes, skin pale against the white fabric. A faint dimple presses into her left cheek. It is Leah. But it is also the woman from the photos, the one Ethan lost. She picks up the tube of tinted balm on the vanity and hesitates. She has seen Claire's mouth in all those pictures. Glossy. Perfect. Leah caps the balm and sets it down firmly. She drags her fingers through her hair, leaves it a little messy. She does not change the shape of her mouth. I am not her. She tells the mirror under her breath. No matter what he wants. The reflection does not argue. Downstairs, the house is a study in controlled luxury. Dark wood floors, neutral walls, art that probably costs more than Leah's entire building. A grand piano sits unused in the corner of the living room. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook a private garden carved into the city like a secret. She follows the faint clink of dishes to the dining room. Ethan is already there, standing by the window, a cup of coffee in his hand. Morning light cuts across his profile, sharpening his cheekbones. Good morning. Leah says, not sure of the rules here. He turns. For the first time since she met him, his expression does not immediately settle back into cold control. It flickers. His gaze drags from the top of her head down to her bare feet. Something like pain flashes through his eyes, so quick she almost doubts it. Then it is gone. You are late, he says. She glances at the clock. It is 2 minutes past 8. I got turned around, she says. The house is big. He sets his cup down with a soft click and walks toward her. The white dress whispers around her legs. She resists the urge to back up. He stops just close enough that she can smell his cologne again. His eyes linger on the hollow of her throat, the slope of her shoulders, the way the dress fits her body. You look like her, he murmurs. Leah's stomach curls. You made sure I would. Some things money cannot change, he says. The rest is a matter of detail. He reaches out and, without asking, lifts a strand of her hair, curling it around his finger. His touch is cool. Her skin prickles. Claire used to wear her hair up for breakfast, he says absently. She said it kept syrup out of the way. Leah gently pulls her hair free. I like it down, she says. His gaze snaps to her face, sharp. For a heartbeat, they stare at each other. Leah forces herself not to look away. If she starts folding now, she will never stop. Something unreadable passes through his eyes. Then, unexpectedly, he looks away first. Sit, he says, gesturing to the chair at the long table's end. Eat. You will need your strength if you plan to hover over your brother's surgery. The word hover is edged with something like mockery, but he pulls out the chair for her anyway. Leah sits, pulse skittering. Breakfast appears like magic. Poached eggs, avocado toast, a bowl of berries. And, placed carefully by her right hand, a delicate cup of mint tea. She stares at the pale green liquid, steam curling above it. She remembers the first time she tried mint tea, in a cheap cafe downtown, when she tried to be healthy for a week. She had grimaced after one sip. Now it is a requirement. She lifts the cup and sips. The flavor floods her tongue. Sharp, clean, wrong. Claire loved mint, Ethan says quietly, watching her. Leah sets the cup down, the porcelain rattling against the saucer. I am not Claire, she says again, this time out loud, not to a mirror. His jaw tightens. You agreed to this. I agreed to save my brother, she says, fingers curling in her lap. You bought my time and my body. You did not buy my name. Silence drops over the table. For a second, she thinks she might have gone too far. That he will remind her of the contract, ice over completely, rescind the hospital payment, though he promised he would not. Instead, he leans back in his chair, studying her like an unexpected puzzle piece. Eat, he says finally. We will talk about boundaries later. It is not an apology. It is not kindness. But it is not punishment either. She eats because she is hungry, and because her body needs to function if she is going to hold on to any piece of herself in this house. Later, when the car takes her to the hospital, she sits beside Ethan in the back seat. The city slides by beyond the tinted glass. He scrolls through emails on his phone, his tie loosened just enough to expose a line of his throat. At one point, her hand brushes the leather between them. He glances over, then reaches into the compartment and pulls out a small blanket. Without a word, he drapes it over her knees. You are shivering, he says, looking away again. Heat creeps up her neck. At the hospital, he moves through the corridors like he owns the place. People step aside. Nurses straighten. The surgeon shakes his hand, clasps his shoulder, promises they will do everything they can. Leah signs the forms with a hand that will not stop shaking. When Adam is wheeled into the operating room, his fingers cling to hers until the last possible second. You will be here when I wake up, right? He whispers, voice muffled by the oxygen mask. Leah forces a smile. Always. His eyes, so similar to hers, flick past her to Ethan, who stands near the door, broad shoulders filling the frame. Is that the rich guy from TV? Adam mumbles. He looks like a villain in a movie. Go to sleep, Leah says, laughing a little. You watch too many movies. She kisses his forehead. Her lips taste like antiseptic and fear. The doors close. In the waiting room, hours stretch. Leah paces, sits, stands, paces again. The cheap coffee from the vending machine turns her stomach. Every time a door opens, her heart jerks. Ethan sits in a chair by the window, jacket folded over the armrest, tie off, sleeves rolled up. He takes calls, answers emails, glances at her every few minutes like he is checking a stock price he has invested in heavily. At some point, she must look worse than she feels, because he stands and crosses to her. Sit down, he says. You are going to pass out. I am fine. She lies. His eyes narrow. Without warning, he reaches out and wraps his hand around her wrist. His palm is warm, his grip firm. Her pulse leaps under his fingers. You are ice cold, he mutters. Leah, sit. Hearing her name in his voice sends a strange jolt through her. It is softer this time, edges dulled by exhaustion. She sinks into the chair. After a moment, he disappears and returns with a cardboard cup. Tea, he says, handing it to her. She expects mint. When she lifts the lid, a different scent rises up. Sweet, caramel. She blinks. This is caramel latte, he says. You made a face at the mint this morning. He remembered. It is fine, she says automatically. You do not have to dash. Drink it. He interrupts. You look like you are about to vibrate out of your skin. She does. The warmth spreads through her chest, taking some of the edge off her terror. Hours later, when the surgeon finally emerges to say the words she made it through surgery, we are cautiously optimistic, Leah's knees give out. She would hit the floor if Ethan's hand did not catch her elbow. His arm comes around her, solid and real. He lets her sob into his shirt for a full minute without comment. His hand moves awkwardly over her back, like he is unsure of the protocol for comfort. Thank you. She chokes out when she can breathe again. If it were not for you. His jaw flexes. Do not thank me, he says tightly. We both got what we wanted. But his hand does not leave her back until her breathing evens out. That night, back at the mansion, Leah stands alone in the small sitting room off the main hall. The mint tea sits untouched on the table. The clock on the wall ticks toward 9. She hears Ethan's footsteps before she sees him. He pauses in the doorway, tie gone, the top buttons of his shirt undone. Your brother is stable, he says. The doctor emailed an update. Relief washes over her again, softer this time. I know. I called the nurse. He steps further in, eyes flicking to the tea. You did not drink. He notes. I will, she says. In a minute. He studies her face. For once, there is no mention of Claire. No correction of details. How are you? He asks. The question is startling in its simplicity. Leah exhales. Tired, grateful, scared. He nods slowly, like he understands that combination more than he should. You did what you had to do for your family, he says. I respect that. Coming from him, it is almost a confession. What did you do for yours? She asks before she can stop herself. His gaze shudders. The brief flicker of vulnerability disappears. This is not about me, he says. Of course it is not. In this house, nothing is about her either. Not really. Later, after he leaves and the clock strikes 11, Leah sits in front of the easel Maria found for her and starts to paint. She paints Ethan in the hospital waiting room. Shadows under his eyes, tie discarded, hands knotted together. But she does not put Claire beside him, the way tabloids used to frame him. She leaves the space at his side empty. When she is done, she signs the back of the canvas with small, precise letters. Leah, not Claire. She props the painting against the wall and tells herself she will not give it to him. That it is for her eyes only. That she will find a way to remember, even here in this gilded cage, that she is still a person, not a ghost wearing someone else's dress and drinking someone else's tea. 3 years blur into a rhythm that Leah never meant to learn. Mornings start with white dresses and forced mint tea, followed by visits to the hospital, until Adam is healthy enough to move into a rehab center, then a tiny apartment of his own across town. Afternoons are filled with silent afternoons in the sunlit studio on the second floor, painting while the city hums beyond the windows. Evenings belong to Ethan. Sometimes he takes her to dinners where the rich devour one another with polite smiles. Sometimes he simply sits with her in the quiet sitting room, a glass of whiskey balanced in his hand, tie loosened, asking questions about her sketches like he genuinely cares what she sees when she looks at the world. He never calls her Leah in public. In front of other people, she is referred to in the vaguest terms. Her presence is a shadow at his shoulder, her hand slipping into his when cameras flash. Claire's favorite white dresses multiply in the closet. Claire's perfume replaces the floral scent in the bathroom. But sometimes, late at night when the city's glow seeps through the curtains, and the world shrinks to the size of the bed, he says her name against her throat. Leah. Rough, desperate, as if he is afraid it will be stolen if he does not hold on. Those nights are the ones that do the most damage. Because in those moments, when his careful walls crack, and his hands tremble against her skin, she can almost believe that she is not a stand-in. That the warmth in his eyes is for her, not for a ghost. Almost. Until morning comes, and she finds him standing alone in his office, fingers tracing the glass of an old framed photo turned face down on his desk. Until she walks into a room, and hears him swear under his breath when some expression, some tilt of her head catches him off guard and drags him back into memories that do not belong to her. She lives in between those almosts and the crash that follows, her heart wearing thinner with each repetition. Maria, practical and quiet, becomes her ally. Amy, her best friend, her only tether to the world outside this house. Amy visits twice a week, bringing coffee that is too sweet and gossip that is too sharp. You know this is messed up, right? Amy says one afternoon, sprawled on the studio couch, dark curls piled on top of her head, scrubs wrinkled from her shift at the care home. The whole stand-in situation. Leah sits cross-legged on the floor, paint stains on her fingers, a canvas propped against her knees. It is another study of hands. Ethan's, holding a coffee cup. Adam's, wrapped around a pencil. Her own, pressing against glass. I know. Leah says. And yet you are still here. Amy presses. 3 years, Lee. That is, a lot of pretending. It paid for Adam's surgery. Leah says softly. And his rehab. And his medication. He is in school again. He has a future. I cannot regret that. I am not saying regret the surgery. Amy says. I am saying you do not owe this man your entire life plus interest. Leah dips her brush into red paint and draws a small, fierce streak across the canvas. It was supposed to be temporary, she says. Until Claire came back. Amy snorts. Right. And where is this mythical Claire? Leah hesitates. The question is one she carries like a stone in her pocket, always there, always heavy. Maybe she is gone, she says. Maybe she is happy, married to someone else in the suburbs, with kids and a golden retriever. Maybe she got hit by a bus. Amy says unhelpfully. Either way, you are the one here. He is the one here. And from the way you talk about him, you are not exactly unaffected. Heat crawls up Leah's neck. I am not discussing my love life with you, she mutters. So you admit you have one. Amy crows. Busted. Leah throws a paint-stained rag at her. It lands on Amy's shoulder. Amy yelps and shoves it off, laughing. You deserve more than being someone's almost. Amy says when the laughter fades. You deserve someone who says your name in the daylight too. Leah looks down at her hands, at the red streak she painted without thinking. I know. She whispers. She just has no idea how to ask for it without cracking the fragile thing they have built. The answer comes on a Tuesday afternoon, 3 years to the week since the rain-soaked bargain that changed everything. The doorbell rings. Leah is alone in the foyer, Maria busy in the kitchen, when the sound echoes through the house. The staff rarely uses the front entrance. Ethan is at the office, buried in meetings. Curious, Leah smooths her white dress and opens the door. Sunlight spills in, bright and sharp. For a moment, she is blinded. Then the shape on the threshold resolves into a woman's outline. Blonde hair, white dress, delicate features framed by waves. The woman smiles and the world tilts. Leah? The stranger says, voice musical. Then she laughs. No, my mistake. You must be. Her gaze sweeps over Leah from head to toe, lingering on the neckline of the dress. Recognition flares in her eyes. Of course, she says lightly. You are the replacement. Leah's mouth goes dry. I am. Who are you? The woman tilts her head, the motion eerily familiar. Claire, she says. Claire Hart. She says it like it is a punchline. Like the universe is in on a joke that leaves Leah standing in the doorway, heart slamming against her ribs. For 3 years, Leah has seen Claire only in pictures, in the stories Ethan will not tell, in the way his face goes shuttered when certain songs come on the radio. In the ghost that haunts this house. Now the ghost stands on the front step, very much alive, wearing the same white as Leah, but with the polish of someone who has never scrubbed dried paint off her fingers. Behind Claire, a silver town car idles at the curb. The driver stares straight ahead. You are early. A voice says from the driveway. Ethan's. He is home hours before he is supposed to be, suit jacket over his arm, tie undone, phone pressed to his ear. His words falter when he sees Claire on the doorstep. The world seems to freeze. His phone slips from his fingers and hits the pavement with a crack. Claire. He breathes, raw disbelief tearing through his usually controlled tone. Claire's smile softens, turns sweet, practiced. Ethan. She says. I am back. He crosses the distance between them in 3 long strides. Leah steps back instinctively, making room. Ethan grabs Claire, pulling her into a tight embrace. His eyes squeeze shut. His shoulders shake with a breath that sounds like it has been trapped in his chest for years. For a moment, the living room, the foyer, the city, all of it collapses into a single point where his hand fists in the back of Claire's dress. Leah stands off to the side, pressed against the wall, fingers digging into the doorframe. She forces air into her lungs. This is what she has been preparing for. This was always the end point. Claire pulls back first, fingertips brushing Ethan's cheek. I missed you, she whispers, loud enough for Leah to hear. Ethan's eyes glisten. He swallows hard. You left, he says, voice shaking between accusation and relief. You did not call. You did not write. I know, Claire says. I was stupid. I thought I could build a life without you. I was wrong. She looks around the house with a small, appreciative smile. You have kept everything the same, she notes. Except. Her gaze lands on Leah. She takes in the other woman's white dress, the similar hair, the way Leah is trying and failing to make herself invisible. Oh, Claire says, feigning surprise. You found a stand-in. Leah's cheeks burn. Shame crawls across her skin. Ethan follows Claire's gaze. For the first time since she opened the door, his eyes meet Leah's. There is a flash of something there, shock, guilt, something softer that vanishes as quickly as it appears. Leah, he says, voice suddenly formal. Go upstairs. Her stomach drops. 3 years, and he has never told her to disappear like that. Not even in front of board members, socialites, vultures who would have loved to speculate. She straightens, fighting the wobble in her knees. Of course, she says, proud that her voice does not crack. Claire's smile sharpens. So you are Leah, she says. The one everyone whispers about. The girl who looks like me. The words girl and whispers sting. Leah bites the inside of her cheek hard enough to taste blood. I am just passing through, she says quietly. You do not need to worry. Claire laughs, delighted. Oh, darling, I was never worried. Copies rarely last. Heat floods Leah's face. Her fingers curl into fists at her sides. She imagines flinging paint at Claire's perfect white dress, watching color spread across the fabric like a wound. Instead, she lifts her chin. Welcome back, she says, because she has no idea what else to say that will not explode everything on the spot. Then she walks away. On the staircase, out of sight, she pauses and listens. Below, Ethan's voice drops to a murmur. I did not think you would ever come back. He confesses. I did not think you would still want me. Claire replies, faux self-deprecation in every syllable. But then I saw the headlines about Walker Group's new deals, the photos of you alone on red carpets. I realized I made a mistake. There is a soft sound. A kiss. The kind that has history in it. Leah's hand tightens on the banister until her knuckles ache. She does not hear her own footsteps as she climbs the rest of the way. In her room, she shuts the door with more force than necessary. The mirror throws her reflection back at her. White dress. Pale face. Eyes too bright. She crosses to the closet and yanks the doors open. Rows of white dresses stare back, silent accusation in every hanger. Dresses she wore because he asked. Dresses he paid for. Dresses that were never meant for her. With a ragged sound, she grabs hangers in both hands and pulls. Fabric slides, Plastic clatters against hardwood, the neatly arranged row collapsing into a heap on the floor. Breathing hard, she kicks the mound of white to the side and reaches deeper into the closet. Her fingers brush something different, cotton, rougher. She pulls it out. It is the first dress she has painted in this house, years ago. A simple red sundress she bought with Amy at a thrift store. She never wore it outside the studio. Red felt too loud for the girl, who was supposed to blend into someone else's outline. Now she stares at it for a long moment. Then she strips out of the white dress and pulls the red one over her head. It fits a little tighter than it used to. She has filled out since those early days of hospital coffee and skipped meals. Her shoulders are stronger. In the mirror, she looks like a stranger again. This time, the good kind. Downstairs, laughter floats up. Claire's chiming amusement. Ethan's lower rumble. Leah's throat burns. She crosses the room to the corner where her canvases lean. One by one, she drags out the paintings of Ethan. The one of him in the waiting room. The one of him standing on the balcony, New York spread out below him. The one of his hand reaching for hers, unfinished. On the back of each, in tiny letters, she wrote his initials, E.W. She takes a black marker and adds something next to them. Expiration dates. Tomorrow. Next week. A month from now. There is no real meaning to the dates. They are just lines she draws for herself, small acts of defiance in ink. She will not stay past the last one, she tells herself. She will not watch him slide back into a life with Claire while she lingers like a ghost in the corner. In the hallway outside her room, footsteps approach. Firm. Familiar. A knock. Leah. Ethan's voice says through the door. Open up. She closes her eyes for a moment, then exhales and turns the knob. He stands there, tie back on, shirt collar straightened, hair smoothed like he has put his armor back on. His gaze schemes over her shoulder, taking in the mess of dresses on the floor, the scattered canvases. Then it lands on her, on the red dress. His pupils dilate almost imperceptibly. Why are you wearing that? He demands, voice low. Because it is mine, she says. Not Claire's. His brows draw together. Claire is back, he says, as if she could have somehow missed the spectacle downstairs. This changes things. It was always going to, she says. That was the deal. He glances at the pile of white dresses again, then back at her bare feet, the paint smudged on her ankle. You will stay, he says after a beat. For now, while we sort things out. Sort things out, she repeats. Is that what you call bringing your ex back into the house where your current stand-in lives? Pain flashes through his gaze. Annoyance follows. Do not make this more complicated than it has to be, he says sharply. Claire is fragile. She has been through a lot. And I have not. Leah asks, incredulous laughter breaking through her fury. I signed away my freedom so my brother could live. I have spent 3 years pretending to be someone else so you could sleep at night. But sure, let us protect Claire's feelings. His mouth flattens. Leah dash. No. She cuts in. You do not get to say my name like that, and then act like I am optional. The words hang between them, raw and trembling. His shoulders sag a fraction. I never meant for you to get hurt, he says quietly. She laughs. It sounds wrong in her throat. That is the thing about cages, she says. They hurt, whether or not you mean them to. For a moment, he looks like he might reach for her. His hand lifts halfway, fingers curling. Then Claire's voice floats up from downstairs. Ethan, darling, are you coming? The wine is getting warm. He closes his eyes for a split second. When he opens them, the distance is back. We will talk about this later, he says. Please, just stay out of sight for tonight. For me. For him. Always for him. Leah steps back, holding the door open. Do not worry, she says. I know how to disappear. She closes the door gently in his face. Later, alone in the dark, she sits on the floor amid fallen white dresses and stares at the red paint under her nails. She listens to the faint echo of music from downstairs, the clinking of glasses, the murmur of voices. She thinks of Amy telling her she deserves someone who says her name in daylight. Someone who does not flinch when she wears her own colors. On the back of the last canvas, in small, neat letters, she writes a word she has never allowed herself to put into the air. Enough. Claire does not slide seamlessly back into Ethan's life. She claws her way in. At first, the house feels like it has shifted a few inches to the left. Furniture rearranged. Schedules tweaked. Claire's things reappearing as if they had been waiting in storage for this exact moment. Perfume bottles line the vanity again, all high-end and floral. A suitcase of designer clothes appears in the master bedroom. A framed photo of Claire and Ethan on a beach in the Hamptons materializes on the hallway table. Leah notices each change like a paper cut. Claire notices her noticing. I love what you have done with the place, Claire says one morning over breakfast, swirling orange juice in a crystal glass. She perches on a stool at the kitchen island, bare feet tucked neatly under her, hair in a perfectly messy bun that probably took time to achieve. Looks like you tried very hard to keep everything the way I liked it. Her gaze flicks to Leah, who stands by the counter, fingers curled around a mug of coffee. Not mint tea. Ethan ordered the staff to leave both options out now, in some misguided attempt at balance. I did not make those decisions, Leah says. Claire's smile is all teeth. No, you mean you were just a very committed tribute act? Ethan, seated between them, sets his fork down with more force than necessary. The silverware clinks against the plate. Enough, he says. Leah is my guest. She helped me through a difficult time. You will treat her with respect. Leah almost chokes on her coffee. Guest. Claire raises a perfectly shaped brow. A guest who lives in your house for 3 years, wears my clothes, and shares your bed. She says sweetly. Forgive me if I am a little confused about definitions. Color creeps up Ethan's neck. For once, he is the one shifting uncomfortably. Leah sets her mug down. I should go to the studio, she says, voice tight. I have commissions to finish. Ethan opens his mouth, like he wants to ask her to stay. Claire lays a hand on his arm, nails painted a soft pink that does not match the sharpness of her tone. Yes, let her go paint, Claire says. I am sure there are plenty of men lined up who would love a portrait of their temporary obsession. Leah walks away before she throws something. In the studio, she slams the door harder than she intends. The canvases rattle. She paces like a caged animal, fingers digging into her hair. The red dress hangs on the back of a chair, a small splash of color in an otherwise neutral space. She grabs a fresh canvas, slaps it onto the easel, and starts painting with furious strokes. Not Ethan, not Claire, not herself. A bird. Massive wings beating against bars that will not bend. She is so focused on the angle of the wings, the way light might catch on feathers, that she does not hear the door open. You are getting better, Ethan says. Leah freezes, brush hovering above the canvas. Paint drips onto the floor. I thought you were busy being wrapped around Claire's little finger, she says without turning. He exhales, an exhausted sound. She is demanding. He admits. Demanding. Leah repeats. Interesting word for it. He steps further into the room. His presence shifts the air. The scent of his cologne wraps around her, familiar and infuriating. What do you want, Ethan? She asks. I wanted to see how you were doing, he says. You disappeared after breakfast. I am fine. She lies. His gaze drops to the canvas. The bird. The bars. Is that how you see this house? He asks quietly. She finally looks at him. His tie is loosened. The top button of his shirt is undone, exposing a hint of skin. There are faint lines at the corners of his eyes that were not there 3 years ago. Sometimes, she says. Sometimes it is not the house. Sometimes it is you. He flinches. Claire is back, he says. Things are complicated. No, Leah counters. Things are simple. You love her. You have always loved her. You made that very clear. I was just. She trails off, throat thick. A substitute. She finishes. He takes a step closer. You were never just anything, he says. Her laugh is bitter. That is funny, coming from the man who literally hired me to be a copy, she says. You could at least be honest about what this was. He swallows. It started that way, he admits. But it changed. Her heart stutters. She hates that it still reacts to him. Changed how? She asks. He looks away, jaw tight. I do not expect you to believe me, he says. Not after everything, but somewhere along the way, when I was too busy being angry at the world and at myself, I stopped seeing Claire when I looked at you. The room tilts. I saw you, he says. Silence swells. Leah's grip on the brush loosens. It falls to the floor, landing with a soft thud. You have a terrible way of showing it, she whispers. His mouth twists. I know. Do you? She demands. Because from where I am standing, it looks like you are still chasing the past, just with more collateral damage this time. He runs a hand through his hair, messing the carefully styled strands. When Claire left, I blamed myself, he says. I thought if I had been more, done more, loved her better, she would have stayed. When you came along, looking so much like her, it felt like a second chance I did not deserve. I told myself if I could recreate what we had, I could fix whatever was broken in me. He meets her eyes. But you are not her. He says. You never were. You do not smile like her. You do not move like her. You argue with me. You challenge me. You make me think about things I do not want to think about. His voice roughens. For a long time, that scared me. So I pretended harder, pushed you into her outline, because it was easier than admitting I was falling for someone new. The words land like blows and bandages all at once. Falling. For someone new. For her. Leah's heart races, hope and anger warring in her chest. And now? She asks, the word barely more than a breath. He steps closer, close enough that she can see the faint stubble on his jaw, the tiny scar near his eyebrow she has painted from memory more times than she can count. Now I watch Claire sit at my table and talk about investors like they are accessories. He says. She complains that the house is not big enough, that the staff is too slow, that your paintings are too messy to hang in the hallway. Leah winces. She asked me to fire Maria this morning, because she did not fold her dresses the way she likes. Ethan continues. When I said no, she threw a vase. He glances at Leah's hand, where fine porcelain dust still glints under her nails from cleaning up the shards. I thought I wanted my life back the way it was before. He says. But all I feel when she is here is tired. He takes another step, erasing the last of the distance between them. When you walk into a room, he says. I do not feel tired. Her breath stutters. You feel what? She asks, hating the tremor in her voice. Alive. He says simply. Tears burn behind her eyes. You do not get to say things like that while she is downstairs picking out curtains. She whispers. You do not get to tell me you see me now, after 3 years of pretending, and expect me to just wait around until you make up your mind. He flinches again, as if the idea of her not being here had not occurred to him that way. Leah dash. The studio door swings open without a knock. There you are. Claire says, smile bright, eyes cold. I have been looking everywhere for you. Her gaze lands on the two of them, standing too close, emotion crackling in the air between them. Her smile sharpens. Am I interrupting? She asks, voice sugar-sweet. Yes. Leah says, before Ethan can respond. Claire laughs. Relax. I just wanted to talk to our little artist friend. She glides into the room on bare feet, picking up one of Leah's canvases and examining it like a piece of produce at the market. This is interesting, she says. Very raw. Is that rich people code for messy? Leah asks. Claire tilts her head. Do not be so sensitive. I am sure there are plenty of coffee shops that would hang your work for cred. Ethan's eyes flash. Claire. He warns. She waves him off. I just wanted to clear the air. Claire says, setting the canvas down. Woman to woman. Leah arches a brow. That would require actual air, not whatever toxic cloud you bring into every room. For a heartbeat, something ugly flickers across Claire's face. Then she smooths it away. You are funny, she says. Ethan always liked that about you. Leah freezes. Ethan does too. Claire's smile widens before turning razor sharp. What, you thought I did not know? She asks. About the whole little arrangement. Please. The first time I saw a tabloid photo of you two, I almost spilled my champagne. Leah's stomach lurches. You left. Ethan says slowly. You said you did not follow my life after. Oh, Ethan. Claire sighs. I said a lot of things. She turns back to Leah. Here is the reality. Claire says. Men like Ethan need illusions. They like to pretend they are in control while chasing ghosts. You were convenient. You gave him something to project onto, and you got a sweet setup out of it. Surgery for your brother, fancy clothes, access to a world you would never have otherwise touched. She shrugs, delicate shoulders rising and falling. Now I am back. She says. The game is over. You have had your fun. Time to let the adults handle things. Leah's fingers curl into fists so tight her nails bite into her palms. You really see him as a game, do you not? She says. Claire snorts. Do not be naive. Love, money, power. It is all the same board. She takes a step closer, voice dropping. Take the payoff when it is offered. Claire advises. Rumor says he is generous. Ask him for a gallery, if you are feeling ambitious. Then go paint your birds and your cages somewhere far away. Do not stick around and make this more pathetic than it already is. Ethan looks like she slapped him. Enough. He says, voice ice. Claire ignores him, eyes locked on Leah. I am giving you friendly advice. She says. Women like us do not get far by clinging to scraps. Leah inhales slowly, exhales. Then she smiles. You are right about one thing, she says. I am done clinging. She wipes her paint-stained hands on her jeans, leaving streaks of color. I will be gone by tomorrow, Leah says. You can keep the house, the clothes, the cage. I am sure you will decorate it beautifully. Ethan's head snaps toward her. Leah, he says, alarmed. Do not make decisions like this when you are angry. I am not angry. She lies. I am awake. She grabs the nearest canvas, the bird with the beating wings, and sets it on the easel where both of them can see it. You bought my time, she says, voice steady. You paid for my brother's life. For that I will always be grateful, but you do not own my future. She looks at Ethan. You love Claire, she says, and the words hurt but feel clean. Or at least the idea of her. You always have. I was stupid enough to think you might see me. That is my mistake, not yours. His eyes blaze. You think I do not see you? He demands. She shakes her head. It does not matter anymore, she says. Because I see myself now, and I am not a stand-in. Claire rolls her eyes. This is very dramatic, she says. Can we wrap up the performance and move on? Leah turns to her. You wanted me gone, she says. Congratulations, you win. Claire's smile falters for the first time. Good, she says. That is good. But there is a flicker of something like annoyance in her gaze. Maybe she expected tears. Begging, not quiet resolve and a red dress. Leah looks back at Ethan one last time. Thank you for saving Adam, she says softly. Really, that is the part of you I will remember. Her throat tightens. Goodbye, Ethan. She walks past them, shoulders square, paint on her hands like war stripes. Ethan does not stop her. Not with Claire watching, not with years of habit weighing down his feet. The next morning, he wakes up to silence. Leah's room is empty. The closet is half bare. The canvases are gone, leaving faint outlines on the walls where sunlight bleached the paint around them. On the bed, there is a single folded note. He picks it up with trembling fingers. Ethan, thank you for giving my brother a chance. The rest of the debt is paid. Do not look for me. Leah, he reads it 3 times, the words blurring. Claire strolls into the doorway, yawning, hair tousled. Finally, she says when she sees the note. You can stop torturing yourself and focus on what matters. Ethan looks up at her. For the first time, he does not see the girl from the beach photo. He sees a woman who left him for a fatter bank account and came back when the market turned. What matters? He repeats. He crumples the note in his fist. Without a word, he walks past Claire, past the closet with its half-empty hangers, past the life he tried to resurrect. In his study, he pulls up a file on his computer. Thorn, Leah. He scrolls through the details. Hospital bills, payment records, a few photos from charity galas where she stood at his side, unnamed in the captions, eyes brighter than the flash. He realizes, with a clarity that knocks the breath from his chest, that he has just let the only real thing in his life walk out the door. And she told him not to follow. He slams his fist onto the desk. For the first time in years, the glass photo frame lying face down moves. He picks it up. The picture inside is of him and Claire at some long-ago event, both smiling, both golden. He stares at it for a long beat. Then, with deliberate care, he drops it into the trash can. The sound of shattering glass echoes in the quiet room. In the hallway outside, Claire pauses, frown creasing her forehead. She has miscalculated. For the first time, she is not the one holding all the cards. News of Leah's disappearance spreads through the household faster than any official memo could. Maria finds the empty room and the made bed. The staff whispers in the kitchen. Adam calls Leah's phone until it goes straight to voicemail, then calls Ethan instead. What do you mean she left? Adam demands, voice ragged. You were supposed to look out for her. Ethan stands in the middle of his office, phone pressed so hard to his ear it hurts. I know, he says, the words tasting like ash. I am trying to find her. Try harder. Adam snaps. She might forgive you for this crap, but I will not. She gave up everything for me, and you let her walk out like she was nothing. The line goes dead before Ethan can respond. He deserves it. For 3 days, he does little else but search. He calls every gallery Leah ever mentioned, every coffee shop where she liked the lighting, every hospital and rehab center where Amy might be working. He has people go through flight records, bus ticket purchases, rental agreements. Nothing. Leah has vanished like smoke. Claire watches his frantic efforts with increasing irritation. This is getting obsessive, she says one evening, leaning against the doorway of his study with a glass of wine. She was a girl you paid to play dress up. Let it go. Ethan ignores her, scrolling through a list of names and addresses. Claire rolls her eyes and steps further in. I came back for you, she says. Not to watch you spiral over your former stand-in. You are making a fool of yourself. He looks up slowly. You came back for my bank account, he says. Her eyes widen. Excuse me. Do not bother denying it, he says, voice flat. I had a report run. The man you left with filed for bankruptcy 18 months ago. You have been living in hotels ever since. Your trust fund is gone. Your last 3 credit card payments were late. Color drains from her face. You had me investigated? She hisses. I had to know why you suddenly decided you missed me, he says. Imagine my surprise when it had nothing to do with my stunning personality. She sets the wine glass down with a sharp clink. You are unbelievable, she says. After everything, you choose to believe some spreadsheet over me? I have believed pretty lies for too long, he says. Leah taught me the cost of that. Her again. Claire snaps. What did she ever do that was so special? She stayed, he says. When you ran, she told me the truth, even when it hurt. She looked me in the eye and called me out on my worst moments. She painted me ugly and flawed and still wanted to see what was underneath. His chest tightens. And I broke her anyway, he says quietly. Claire stares at him like she does not recognize the man in front of her. You sound pathetic, she says. All this over some street rat with a decent jawline. Anger flares hot and white. Get out, he says. She laughs, disbelieving. Do not be ridiculous, Dash. Get out of my house. He repeats, louder. For the first time since she walked back into his life, Claire sees something in his eyes that makes her take a step back. You do not mean that, she says. You are confused. Hurt people do stupid things, Dash. I meant it the first time, he says. 3 years ago, I should have told you no when you showed up on my doorstep. No more games. No more illusions. I did not. That is on me. But I am not making that mistake again. He walks to the door, opens it, and gestures to the hall. You wanted to clear the board, he says. Fine. This is me flipping the table. She lifts her chin. If I leave, Claire says. Do not expect me to come back. I do not, he says. They stare at each other, 2 people who once thought they understood the shape of their love. It was fun while it lasted, she says finally, each word dipped in acid. It lasted 5 years longer than it should have, he says. She walks out. He does not watch her go this time. When the door slams downstairs and the engine of her car fades into the distance, the house is quieter than it has ever been. No Claire, no Leah, just the echo of his own mistakes. Ethan sinks into his chair and buries his face in his hands. It is Maria who knocks an hour later. She steps into the study, wiping flour from her hands on her apron. I baked cookies, she says. We are out of people who will eat them. Despite everything, a tired huff of amusement escapes him. I am sure you can find a way, he says. She eyes the overflowing trash can, the scattered papers. Or you could try eating, she suggests. You have been running on caffeine and guilt for 3 days. He rubs his eyes. I am busy. You are lost, she corrects gently. He looks at her. Did you know she was planning to leave? He asks. Leah? Maria's expression softens. I knew she was thinking about it. She asked me how much a one-way ticket to somewhere warm would cost. His chest tightens. Why did you not tell me? He asks. Maria raises a brow. Would you have listened? She asks. He hesitates. Fair. He concedes. Maria walks closer, sets a plate of cookies on his desk, and then, after a brief internal debate, pulls a folded piece of paper from her apron pocket. She left this in the kitchen by accident the night before she went, Maria says. I do not think she meant for anyone to see it, but maybe you should. Ethan takes the paper. It is a sketch. A rough pencil drawing of a street lined with tall, narrow buildings, balconies dripping with flowers. A river curves through the scene, a bridge arching over it. People walk along the bank, some holding hands, some alone. At the bottom of the page, in small letters, Leah has written a single word. Paris. His heart lurches. She wanted to go to Paris, Maria says quietly. She said she wanted to stand in front of the originals instead of studying them in cheap prints. Said she wanted to paint somewhere no one knew her face. He stares at the drawing, at the lines that capture movement and light with a few strokes. Thank you, he says, voice rough. Maria nods and leaves him alone with the realization that Leah did not vanish into nowhere. She ran toward something, not just away. For the first time since she left, Hope flickers. The next day, Ethan is on a plane. He does not call ahead. He does not send flowers or an army of assistants. He flies quietly, sits in a middle seat, because he booked last minute, and refused to bump anyone else, and spends 7 hours replaying every moment he could have handled differently. He lands in Paris jet-lagged and wired. The city is exactly as Leah drew it. Narrow streets, cobbled alleys, cafes spilling chairs onto sidewalks. Light that seems to hit stone and water at a softer angle. He checks into a hotel, drops his bag, and heads out with nothing but the sketch in his pocket and a list of addresses. He starts with the galleries known for showcasing emerging artists. Some have never heard of her. A few recognize her work from online portfolios she posted under a pseudonym. One remembers a young woman with paint in her hair asking about studio rental prices. She said she was looking for a small place with big windows. The owner says, tapping a pen against her chin, "Americans always want big windows. Did she leave a number?" Ethan asks. The owner shakes her head. She paid cash for a 1-month slot in the back studio around the corner. She said if she sold something by the end of the month, she would sign up again. Hope spikes. "Where is this studio?" he asks. She scribbles an address on a card. "She is good," the owner adds as he turns to go. She paints like she is standing on the edge of something. "I know," he says. He follows the winding streets to a narrow building with peeling blue paint and mismatched mailboxes. A small hand-painted sign by the door reads Ateliers. He climbs the creaking stairs to the second floor. There are 4 doors, each with a number. He hesitates in front of Studio 2, heart pounding. He hears it before he knocks. Her voice. "Hold the brush like you are holding a feather, not a hammer," Leah says, laughter tucked into the words. "Unless you want all your flowers to look like angry meatballs." A child giggles. Ethan's throat tightens. He knocks. Silence falls inside. Footsteps cross the floor. The door opens. Leah stands there, a smudge of blue paint on her cheek, hair pulled back with a pencil, a red dress splattered with colors. Her eyes widen when she sees him. For a heartbeat, they simply stare. "Ethan," she says finally, his name strange in this new city. Up close, he can see the ways Paris has already touched her. A new ease in her posture. A lightness in her eyes, tempered but not extinguished. There are 2 children behind her, both around 8, holding brushes, eyes wide as saucers at the sight of a stranger. "We will finish the sky later," Leah tells them, voice steady. "Wash your brushes. Remember, no soaking the bristles." They scamper off to the sink in the corner, whispering in French about the tall man in the doorway. Leah steps into the hallway, closing the door behind her enough to muffle the sounds of running water. "What are you doing here?" she asks. "I came to find you," he says. The hallway feels too small for everything he wants to say. "You should not have," she says. The note was clear. "I ignored it," he says. She huffs out something between a laugh and a sigh. "Of course you did," she mutters. He takes a breath. "Leah, I dash. If you are here to offer more deals, do not bother." She interrupts. "I am fresh out of body parts to sell." Pain twists in his chest. "No deals," he says. "No contracts. I am not here as the man who boxed you into someone else's life. I am here as the idiot who finally realized he wants you in his own." Her eyes search his face, wary. "You kicked Claire out," she says. It is not a question. News travels fast, even across oceans. Amy's texts, Maria's emails. Leah knows more than he thinks. "I did," he says. "Weeks ago, before I knew where you went." "Why?" she asks. "Because I saw her clearly for the first time," he says. "And I saw myself clearly too. I did not like what either of us looked like." He swallows. "I hurt you," he says. "I let you stand in a space you were never meant to occupy, then acted surprised when you bled. I let my fear of losing the past keep me from seeing the future standing right in front of me. I treated you like a shadow when you were the only real thing in the room." Her throat works. She looks down at her paint-stained hands. "Ethan Dash, I am not asking you to forgive me," he says quickly. "I do not deserve that. I am not asking you to come back with me, or to pretend none of this happened. He laughs, shaky. "I just needed you to know that I see you," he says. "Not Claire's face. Not some idea of what I wish I had done differently. You, the woman who cursed at me in a rain-soaked hallway, who held her brother's life above her own pride, who drinks coffee that tastes like candy, and paints birds trying to break out of cages." His voice roughens. "I missed you," he says. Every day. I would rather spend the rest of my life on a plane back and forth between New York and Paris than spend another second pretending you were a phase I could move on from. Silence stretches. From inside the studio, a little boy calls out. Professor Leah, nous avons renversé la peinture. Leah pinches the bridge of her nose. Do not call me professor. She calls back in French. And do not eat the paint, it will not make you smarter. The boy giggles. She looks at Ethan again. You cannot fix this with a speech. She says. I know. He says. I brought backup. He opens his hand. In his palm lies a small, bent metro ticket. The ink is almost worn off. Leah recognizes it. How did you get that? She asks, shocked. You left it in your sketchbook. He says. The one you forgot in the living room 2 years ago. From the time you went to visit the Monet exhibit. You told me that day was the first time you felt like you were standing in front of real magic. She remembers. The crowded gallery. The water lilies. The way she had clutched the ticket like a talisman. I kept it. He says. It was the first time I heard you talk about a future that did not revolve around my moods or my house. I should have known then that if I did not make room for you, you would go find room somewhere else. He closes his hand around the ticket again. I know I am late. He says. I know you do not owe me anything, but if there is even a small part of you that still feels something, I am asking for a chance to prove I can show up for you without a contract forcing me to. Tears blur her vision. Ethan. She says softly, and this time his name on her tongue sounds less like a wound, and more like a memory she is not ready to throw away. You are right. She continues. You are late. You hurt me. You stood there and let Claire call me names in my own studio. You asked me to hide so she would not break. His shoulders hunch. I know. He says. And yet. She says, hating herself a little. I cannot say I do not still feel. Hope flares in his eyes, too bright, too fast. She holds up a hand. But love is not chasing after someone when they finally slam the door. She says. It is how you treat them when the door is still open. He nods, swallowing hard. I get that now. He says. Do you? She asks. Because if I let you into my life again, it will be on my terms. No cages. No ghosts. No pretending I am anyone but me. He straightens. Whatever you need. He says. Whatever pace. Whatever boundaries. She snorts. You say that now. Wait until you see my rent. I will live. He says. I have survived worse investments. She laughs, the sound surprised out of her. The kids inside shout something about glitter. She checks the time. I have a class to finish. She says. They are 8. If I leave them alone too long, the entire place will sparkle for eternity. He smiles, small and genuine. I can wait. He says. Outside. In the cafe on the corner. I looked up the menu. They have caramel lattes. She closes her eyes briefly. Of course you did. She murmurs. When she opens them he is still there. Still waiting. Still looking like a man who has finally realized the value of what he almost lost. Do not be late. She says. Paris time, not New York time. He nods. I will be early. She believes him just enough to let him try. As he walks away down the hallway, she catches the faint stoop of his shoulders, the exhaustion in the lines of his suit. He looks less like a billionaire titan, and more like a man who has been dragged through his own private war. Back in the studio, Leah wrangles glitter and paint and tiny hands. She laughs when one of the girls accidentally paints a mustache on her own face. She feels the city humming around her, alive and bright. Outside, in a small cafe on the corner, Ethan sits with a caramel latte growing cold between his hands. He watches the door, every nerve tuned to the moment it will open. He is not used to waiting without controlling every variable. This time, he does not try to control anything except his own breathing. He will wait as long as it takes. When Leah finally steps into the cafe, the afternoon light has turned golden. Her red dress is dusted with glitter. There is a blue fingerprint on her jaw where a student grabbed her attention with sticky hands. She looks tired and alive. Ethan stands so fast his chair scrapes the floor. I was starting to think you bailed. He says, trying for lightness and landing somewhere closer to terrified. I considered it. She admits, dropping into the chair across from him. Twice. His mouth quirks. What made you change your mind? He asks. She glances at the window. Outside, the Seine glimmers, and a couple walks by hand in hand, laughing over something too small for the world to notice. I have spent a lot of my life running, she says. From bills, from sickness, From the feeling that nothing I want is mine to keep. Paris was the first time I ran towards something instead. She meets his gaze. I do not want my story with you to be all about running away, she says. If it ends, I want it to end because we tried, and it did not work, not because I was too scared to find out. His throat works. I will try, he says. I swear to you, Leah, I will spend the rest of my life trying to be a man who deserves to be in whatever story you choose to write for yourself. She snorts softly. That is dramatic, even for you. It is also true, he says. The waiter appears. Leah orders a hot chocolate with extra cream in halting French. Ethan orders a caramel latte without looking at the menu. You picked up the language fast, he says when the waiter leaves. Survival skill, she says. Turns out landlords here appreciate when you can argue in their tongue. He smiles. Landlord giving you trouble? Not anymore, she says. I threatened to paint his dog on the side of the building if he raised my rent again. Is that a reward or a punishment? Ethan asks. Depends on how ugly I make the dog, she says, lips twitching. Silence settles, not as suffocating as it might have been. Leah, he says finally, taking a breath. I need to ask you something, and I want you to know you can say no. She raises a brow. Not a great track record with that phrase, remember? Last time you asked me something big, no was not really an option. He flinches. You are right, he says. Which is why I am asking now with no strings attached. No consequences either way. She nods cautiously. Okay. He reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out a folded envelope. This is a draft contract, he says. Her eyes narrow. You have got to be kidding me. Not that kind, he says quickly, pushing it across the table with both hands like it might blow up. It is a gallery lease. In New York. She blinks. What? It is a small space in Soho. He explains, words tumbling. High ceilings. Big windows. Decent foot traffic. Fully paid for 3 years. If you want it. If you do not, I will tear that paper up right now and use the space for yoga, or something equally ridiculous. Her fingers hover above the envelope. I do not want you to buy me, she says. I am not, he says. I am trying to give you back some of what I took. You can put your name on the door, or someone else's, or no name at all. You never have to tell anyone it came from me. You could tell people you robbed a bank, it is fine. She huffs out a laugh despite herself. The Leah Thorne criminal enterprise has a nice ring to it, she says. It really does, he says solemnly. She slides the envelope closer but does not open it yet. Why New York? She asks. Why not here? Because Paris is yours, he says. You found it without me. You bled for it, built something out of nothing. I do not want to change that, but New York is. He trails off. Your cage, she says softly. And it does not have to be anymore, he says. It can be whatever you decide to make it. If you ever want to go back. Her chest aches in a way that is strangely sweet. What if I say no? She asks. Then I will find another way to show up. He says simply. I will fly here once a month and buy paintings from your students until you ban me from the studio. I will donate anonymously to every art program in this city. I will send Maria to visit you with cookies and gossip. Saying no to this does not mean saying no to me trying to be better. He means it. She can hear it. She looks down at the envelope. The girl she used to be, the one staring at glossy photos of other people's lives from the corner of a hospital waiting room, would have opened it already, desperate. The woman she is now takes a slower breath. I will think about it, she says. If I take that gallery, it will not be because I cannot build my own. It will be because I choose to let you be part of that process. That is all I am asking, he says. Their drinks arrive. Leah takes a sip of hot chocolate, cream smearing on her upper lip. Ethan chuckles and slides a napkin across the table. You always do that, he says. Do what? She asks, wiping her mouth. Forget how gorgeous you are when you are concentrating on something else, he says. Her cheeks burn. You are laying it on thick, she warns. I am making up for lost time, he says. She shakes her head but does not push him away when his foot brushes hers under the table. The small contact sends a quiet thrill up her leg. How is Adam? She asks, changing the subject before her heart combusts. Annoying, Ethan says fondly. He sends me memes of villains who turn into good guys and asks if I see the resemblance. She snorts. That sounds right. He started an art club at his school. Ethan adds. Apparently his sister is his inspiration. Warmth spreads through her chest that has nothing to do with hot chocolate. And Amy? She asks. Threatened to break my nose if I hurt you again. He says. She was very specific about the angle. I am proud of her. Leah says. She always did have excellent aim. He leans back, eyes tracing her face like he is memorizing every line. So, he says. What now? Now I go back to the studio and stop children from poisoning themselves with glitter. She says. And me? He asks. She hesitates. And you? She says slowly. Get on the next flight back to New York. Pain flashes across his features, quick and clean. I thought. He starts. She reaches across the table and lays her paint-stained hand over his. I am not saying never, she says. I am saying not yet. He swallows hard. Explain, he says. I need time, she says, to figure out who I am when you are not in the next room, to make sure the life I built here is not just a rebound from the life I had with you. He nods, though every muscle in his body screams to argue. I will not wait forever. He jokes weakly, because if he does not lighten it, he might break. She squeezes his hand. You already waited 3 years to realize you were in love with me, she says. What is a little longer? The word hangs between them. Love. He inhales sharply. You know I am in love with you, he says. She smiles, soft and a little sad. I know, she says. I am in love with you too. His hand tightens on hers. But love is not enough. She continues. Not yet. It has to sit on top of trust, respect, all those boring things people write self-help books about. Otherwise we are just setting ourselves on fire for fun. He huffs out a laugh that is half sob. When did you get so wise? He asks. Amy bought me a podcast subscription, she says dryly. He laughs properly this time. The sound loosens something in both of them. Okay, he says. Time, space. I can do that. I can fly over for weekends and stay in my own hotel. I can send you pictures of ugly sculptures I see, and let you roast them. I can be the guy in the back of your gallery openings who claps too loud. She tilts her head. You really think you can handle not controlling everything? She asks. He looks at her, at the woman who once stood in his hallway soaked to the bone, and signed away her freedom for her brother, now sitting in a Paris cafe choosing herself, while still leaving the door cracked for him. I can learn, he says. She leans across the table. Start with this, she says. Trust me when I say I will call. He nods. I will, he says. Outside, the sky shifts from gold to deep blue. Streetlights blink on. The city hums, alive and unbothered by the two hearts trying to recalibrate inside a tiny cafe. When they step outside, the air is cool. Leah pulls her jacket tighter around her. Can I walk you back? He asks. She considers, then nods. They walk side by side along the river. At one point, their fingers brush. She does not pull away when he intertwines them. It feels easy, earned, not demanded. On the bridge, they stop. You know, he says, leaning on the railing. For years I chased a white light that was never meant for me. The famous white moon, she says. He glances at her, amused. White moon. Chinese thing Amy told me about, she says. Men obsessed with some pure first love they put on a pedestal. They call her the white moonlight. Blinding, untouchable. Half the time she is just a girl with good lighting. He laughs. That tracks, he says. Claire was my white moonlight. I let her glow blind me to everyone else. Leah looks up at the sky. Paris's lights drown out most of the stars, but a few stubborn ones punch through. What are you now? He asks quietly. To me? She considers. Not moonlight, she says. Too cold, too far. Maybe, campfire. He chuckles. Campfire? Warm, she says. Messy. Sometimes you get smoke in your eyes. You sit around it with people you actually care about. It does not ask to be worshipped, just tended. He looks at her like she hung the stars herself. I will spend the rest of my life learning how not to burn it down, he says. We will spend. She corrects. I have my own issues, remember? I stayed in a cage for 3 years because I was afraid of what would happen if I walked away. He squeezes her hand. Look at you now, he says. Walking across continents. She smiles. Do you regret it? She asks. The rain, the check, the deal. He thinks of Adam's laughter on video calls, of Leah's paintings hanging in his office now, shipped carefully from New York to Paris and back, his favorites framed not for show but for himself. Of the way she looked at him on that hospital waiting room couch, eyes red, saying thank you even as he chained her to him. I regret the terms, he says. Not the fact that our paths crossed. She nods slowly. Me too, she says. A boat passes under the bridge, lights strung along its sides, music drifting up. A couple on deck dances, silhouettes pressed together. Come back with me for a visit, he says impulsively. Not forever, just a week. We can hang your paintings in the empty rooms, eat terrible pizza, let Adam beat us at video games. Terrible pizza, she repeats, scandalized. I refuse to accept this slander. He grins. I forgot you are loyal to New York slices, he says. Fine, we will go on a pizza tour. Research purposes. She pretends to consider. A week, she says. Then you come back here, and we see if this thing can stretch without snapping. Deal, he says, holding out his free hand. She shakes it, solemn. No contracts. She reminds him. Just promises. And those we actually keep this time. Yes, ma'am, he says. They fall into easy quiet again. Up above, the sky holds its silence. Down below, water carries the reflections of streetlights, turning them into trembling streaks of gold. Leah leans her head on his shoulder. He lets out a breath he did not realize he was holding. This does not fix everything, she says. I know, he says. But it feels like a start. It is, she says. In another life, the story might have ended with a wedding, a ring, a neat bow. In this one, it ends with two people leaning over a river, hands clasped, hearts bruised but beating. The girl who was once a stand-in has stepped into her own light. The man who chased a ghost has finally learned how to stand still. They have no guarantees. No scripts. Only time, and choice, and the slow, hard work of turning ashes into something that can still burn warm. As the first star appears above them, small and stubborn, Leah closes her eyes and makes a wish. Not for a prince. Not for a fairy tale. For courage. To walk away again if she has to. To stay if it is right. To keep choosing herself, even when she chooses him too. The wish feels like a spark sliding down into her chest. Beside her, Ethan squeezes her hand, as if he can feel it too. Ready? He asks. Ask me again tomorrow, she says. He laughs quietly. Tomorrow, then, he says. The future stretches out like the river before them, twisting, uncertain, full of hidden currents. They step into it together, not as savior and stand-in, not as man and his shadow, but as two whole people who have finally learned that real love does not live in cages or on pedestals. It lives in the messy, terrifying, beautiful middle, where white moonlight cannot reach, but starfire can still glow.
Thanks for watching. Follow for more romance stories.